Hello, and welcome to the Community IT Innovators Technology Topics Podcast, where we discuss nonprofit technology, cybersecurity, tech project implementation, strategic planning, and nonprofit IT careers. Find us at communityit.com.
You know, they used to say, don't read your slides. Welcome, everyone, to the Community IT Innovators Technology Topics Podcast. My name is Carolyn Woodard. I'm your host, and today I'm excited to be with Peter Campbell from Tech Cafeteria, who is going to be telling us a little bit more about assessing AI risks at your organization. So, Peter, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So, my name is Peter Campbell. I'm a technology consultant. I work strictly with nonprofits. I have a background of over 40 years of technology management. I started my career in commercial law firms, but after a while said, wait a minute, I wanted to do better things in my life and moved to nonprofits. So I've been working either for nonprofits or with nonprofits for the last 25 years. Tech Cafeteria, I do assessments, CRM or ERP selections or fractional CIO work, help out however I can with kind of my personal mission to help nonprofits use technology better to support their missions.
Which was one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast, because Community IT also believes strongly in that the IT is available and it's hard to achieve your mission without any IT at all. So helping that function, I think, is so helpful to nonprofits.
What I see is that technology really, it can either propel your mission or it can really get in the way.
Totally.
And in my work, I see examples of both, but I try and work it towards the former, not the latter.
Exactly. And so you just recently posted a PowerPoint with, I don't know, it's like half a dozen slides on managing AI risks. And I know, I just hear from nonprofits, from the sector, from our clients, like AI is such a buzzy, trendy word right now. And a lot of nonprofits are trying to figure out how it fits into their technology, what they're doing. They have FOMO, fear of being left behind if they don't use AI. It's coming out in new tools. You just get the update and now you've got an AI helper and you're like, I didn't even want that. So I was really intrigued by this set of slides because I thought you laid out pretty clearly and concisely how to think about AI risks as a nonprofit. So we can give people the address for the slides. You can download it. That'll be in the show notes and on our website. But I wondered if you could kind of walk through the slides and how to think about AI risks.
Absolutely.
That website is techcafeteria.com, TECH, the word cafeteria.com. And at the moment, the PowerPoint slides are right on the homepage. So just scroll down and you can find that for free download. If you're listening to this podcast later and it's no longer on the homepage, the full link is techcafeteria.com/? P equals 3649.
In my work, I do a mix. I mentioned some of the things that I do, but I also do security consulting, so security assessments, that type of thing. And I help nonprofits develop that standard set of policies that everybody should have. When AI, kind of suddenly took over the mindset, became the thing we're all thinking about, I immediately had the concern that there aren't policies in place for this. So I've now worked with 4 or 5 clients to develop those policies. And in developing them, just thought, okay, a policy is a very dry document to read. But getting the message out was important to me. So that kind of inspired me to put together this presentation so that in addition to providing my clients with a policy that they can incorporate into their handbook or whatever they want to do with that, but have a good tool to communicate to staff exactly, why this is important and what the risks are. And I really do have some concerns that even if management has not approved AI in the workplace, AI is in the workplace. It's being used everywhere I go. Microsoft just keeps putting more functionality right into their applications. Google has theirs. It's there, as you said. So because it's there, we need to really understand what is safe, what isn't, I would say that there's nothing that you can do with AI that doesn't have a certain amount of risk to it, in it that we're human beings, rational human beings who can think critically about the information that's in front of us. And AI can be taught to simulate that. But an AI does not think independently. An AI does not have the critical eye on the output that it's creating. So right off the bat, there's certainly a lot more risk in creating something with AI, an image, a report, something like that, than there is using it just to search your email or something like that. But even if you're searching your email, you have to understand that the AI you've told the AI what to search for. It's interpreted your query in the way that it's going to interpret it, and the results that it gives you may not be exactly what you were looking for.
Yeah.
So,
I had a friend who made the analogy that if you remember when we first had Alexa and Siri, and you would ask it something really basic and it couldn't understand what
yeah.
you were saying, it would come back with something completely off the wall. It just hadn't understood the language. And in some ways, I think a lot of AI prompts are similar to that. It's like still learning. And, Alexa and Siri have gotten so much better now. Sorry for anyone who's listening to this near their device, and I just said it twice. But yeah, I think that it's learning. But yeah, it makes sense to have some guardrails in place, or at least be talking about it. You said like policy can be so dry. We have several of our clients who said like our policy is just that people can't use AI at our organization. And that's not what you want either. It's such a productivity tool, but also I guarantee you people at your organization are using it, even if your policy is no.
It's just not realistic. And I remember around 2009 or 10 being with a group of nonprofit CIOs for much larger organizations than one I was working for at the time, and all of them saying how they banned Facebook and Twitter in their workplaces. And I kind of rose up my voice and said, if these aren't business tools today, they're going to be tomorrow, which was, absolutely
Yeah.
happening. And I always kind of argue we have to be aware of the risk in all of the technology we use, but there's a great risk in just banning it and thinking you've solved the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just not realistic. Okay, so the type of tasks that I'm seeing nonprofits use AI for, I'm just going to go through my list of them. One is searching, whether it's searching your email or the web or your network. Another is summarizing meetings. Absolutely. All the video tools are now have that built in, or you can buy a third-party one for that. Doing kind of drafting things that AI is good at drafting, like policies and procedures or how-tos. If you want to, these days, if you want to do how to do something in Word, the AI is really good at that. Drafting emails, generating graphics, videos, and flyers, generating letters and memos, coding, big use for AI right now, generating reports, articles, studies. Attorneys are using it to generate briefs, and we've seen some interesting headlines about that. Automation and analysis. And my list here was kind of in an order from the kind of the most benign to the most dangerous uses of AI, as we'll see. So the risks associated with these types of different tasks include inaccuracy, that anything outputted by an AI tool might have errors. Lack of authenticity. I don't know if you're using Outlook like I do and have the new Outlook, it is kind of frequently popping up and saying, why don't you let the AI help you write this email? And what my big concern is that the AI is not going to write in my tone of voice. And it is important that when somebody receives an email from you, they don't feel like it doesn't seem like it's not from you. That authenticity is really important and something to really consider with AI. More seriously, when you're releasing an AI product, such as a report or a graphic, then reputational damage could occur. If there's errors in what you're outputting, and that's going out to, anywhere outside of the organization, that's dangerous. And, finally, copyright and privacy violations. One of the things that keeps me up at night is that some of these tools, you purchase them and they will go out and scan your network and use what it finds as the sources for the AI models that you'll use to generate output. I can tell you that 95% of my clients somewhere have an employee personnel review that the manager didn't think to put in a secure folder. There's I do security assessments and constantly find credit card numbers and social security numbers that are not secured on the network. So really, unless you are 100% sure that you have all of that down on your network, which I don't see often, then it's very dangerous to let the AI tool kind of go wild and not really curate those sources. So those are the types of risks. And then there's kind of the severity, which correlates to the audience. If you're using it for personal use, if you're just using it to search your email, there's very low risk. If, maybe it's internal to the organization, maybe it's only going out to a couple of people outside of the organization, trusted people, and that's fine. But you're getting, the more people who are seeing outside of the organization, the more you're getting into a medium level of risk. If it's going out to large audiences or to the public, then you're getting to very high risk. So I do have a graph in the presentation, if you go get it, that kind of visualizes the types of activities and the level of risks correlated with the audiences.
Yeah, it kind of makes a grid of what you've talked about, the public to personal, and then the other set that you talked about, the search all the way up to analysis, and correlates the level of risk.
And it's important to put these three things together: the thing you're doing, the type of risk, the severity of the risk.
Yeah. Yep.
So with all of that in mind, then we want to think about, how do we mitigate these risks? What are the things we can do to protect ourselves? So right off the bat, every organization should have an AI policy, and ideally have an AI policy in place before people start using the tools, but we're probably already a little too late for that if you don't have one yet. But this is what I've been really working with all of my clients on, saying you do need to have this policy. You need people thinking about how they're going to use this in ways to protect, again, the organization's reputation, the organization from legal issues, that type of thing.
I think AI is changing so quickly. Even if you wrote an AI policy like in January, 6 months ago, you probably need to review it frequently, because the tools that you're using, the new releases, the new things that AI can do, you may have some questions, or they may have implications for your policy that you need to include.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because I know the community IT has released a kind of template AI policy. It's public. They did that about a year ago. So did a couple of other technology-focused organizations that I work with. And I would say that I think the more recently written ones might be better, and maybe community IT should be looking at that policy and thinking maybe we should update it.
We went back over it and did made some small tweaks to it about 4 months ago. But yeah, it's definitely something that we're looking at frequently, and you should be looking at it frequently if you have an AI policy, because it's just unlike other types of policies. Like if you have a data policy, like you could probably review that, annually, because it's just not moving as quickly, but the AI is just moving so fast.
Yeah. The four things that I think are critical to have in an AI policy are requirements for the review of both the data sources and the output of the AI tools. That those need to be looked at. They need, there needs to be a requirement that they're considered before anything is created and shared. The standards for transparency regarding the use of AI, and we'll talk a little bit more about transparency in a minute. The identifying what are the acceptable AI tools to use. It does make sense for organizations to standardize on one tool, if not just for cost reasons, but also so that if everybody's using the same tool, they can support each other better. And there have been concerns, about some of the tools and whether the companies that made them are ethical with them, which ones are more biased than others. There are things to consider there. And then finally, establishing some kind of organizational oversight. So a good policy might include that the company have an AI committee that reviews things that are going out to the public before they go, and ensures, much if your organization is subject to HIPAA, then that there's required training, there's required HIPAA coordinator in the organization who is looking after these things. I would say that using that same kind of standard for AI makes a lot of sense.
And can I just ask you to pause for a second,
Sure.
Peter, and talk about, do you think that that is something specifically for the nonprofit sector? Or is this something that you think is going to become more widespread, like for-profit companies and government entities as well, that having that oversight committee or someone in charge of AI at your organization?
Yeah, I think that recommendation is to everybody, not just nonprofits.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm more concerned about the nonprofits because they're
Yeah. Well, and I feel like this whole question, like nonprofits are really concerned with AI and with the ethics of the AI as well, because their relationship with their constituents and their missions. And so, yeah, they often have some of like an extra layer of concerns as well that they want to make sure are addressed.
Yep. One kind of the common sense things that I say about AI is to remember that you're the expert, not the AI tool. So I always give the example of GPS is an AI, always has been. And I know that when I use my GPS, it will every now and then take me to make a left turn on a incredibly busy street where there's no traffic light. And I know better. And if I know the streets better, I know that I can just ignore the GPS and go up the street that I know has a traffic light. So I'll be able to make that turn in a couple of minutes instead of waiting 10 or 15. You need this for everything you do with AI, you need to apply your judgment and think of it the same way you might override your GPS because you do know better. And right along with that, a good rule of thumb is to only create things in AI that you are knowledgeable about, so that you can really assess how well the AI did. If you are creating things you aren't so knowledgeable about, then make sure somebody else who is knowledgeable is reviewing them.
That's great advice.
Yeah, those are my most common sense part of it. I mentioned transparency earlier, and I'll just reiterate that you have a tone and style of writing that people are used to. People you communicate with regularly know. They know what you sound like, even in email. And so you need to make sure that they might be shocked to find something that doesn't sound like you at all coming from your email address, and possibly not trust it, possibly have issues with it. A good rule of thumb here is to the same way on your, it's typical to have a signature on a mobile phone that says sent from my mobile, which apologizes for any typos. Mention it if you used AI in creating an email. Or just have disclaimer in your signature saying that sometimes AIs help with my emails, that type of thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that too. And I I think I have noticed that this is also a little bit of a generational thing. I think younger people know what AI is and sounds like really quickly. So they are very quick to pick up on that email sounds like AI or that poster looks like it was made by AI. There's just little tells that they're a little bit more clued into. So even if you think it looks fine, maybe run it by a young person at your organization because they might want to tweak it further.
And then I think this is just incredibly important that I use, and I specifically use this word, curate your data sources. I think of AI, curate is a great word for it. Treat it like a museum. Your data sources are going to determine the output of the AI tool. You need to make sure that they're solid. And solid means that, as I mentioned earlier, you're not pulling things off of your network or in there that shouldn't be in there, such as personal identifiable information or copyrighted information. And then you're really making sure that your data sources don't lead to any kind of bias. And we've seen in the news reports about, long before the recent one with Elon Musk's AI suddenly sounding like it, was from 1939 Germany. Microsoft's had very similar issues with AIs they've created going back years. It's not like they're necessarily, these things are intentional, but if you're not careful about the data you're telling the AI to work with, then you can create biased products with the AI. And in the nonprofit sector in particular, we need to be very careful about that.
Yeah, we don't want to do more harm to populations and communities that we're working with that may already be excluded from some of these, data sets, et cetera. No, those are all great tips. Do you have any final thoughts you want to leave us with on adopting AI at nonprofits and mitigating for risks?
AI is already in use at your nonprofit, and it's only going to grow. I do look at it and go, and I've lived through some, as most of us have, some disruptive technology changes in the environment, and I think this one is going to be huge.
Yeah.
There are already a lot of things about AI that I think that society as a whole really needs to consider, like the energy and resources required to support it, and the impact that it may or may not have on the workforce. If it really does end up replacing a lot of jobs, then we as a society need to think, how do we change?
That education is changing. Will there be English departments in 5 years? If you don't need to learn how to write, they'll just write it for you. So lots of changes.
My message boils down to, it's out there today, and we want to use it responsibly and effectively and safely. So think about the policy if you haven't yet. Great time to adopt one.
Excellent. I think that's a great note to leave it on.
Yeah.
Peter, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're super busy, and I just appreciated this PowerPoint so much when I saw it, and I'm really glad that you could come on and talk about it.
Okay, let me just say this, that if you want to see these slides, if you go to techcafeteria.com, there's a link to them right from the front page. So techcafeteria, DECH, cafeteria, all one word.com. And Carolyn will include the direct link.
Yeah. Thank you again. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Community IT does these free webinars and podcasts for our community, and we love sharing our knowledge and experience. If you have more questions or are having trouble with your IT at your nonprofit, please get in touch with us on our website, www.communityit.com, so we can start a conversation or schedule an assessment. Downloading any of our free resources there will get you signed up for our webinar reminders, and you can attend our next webinar in real time and ask our experts your own questions. If you love podcasts, please subscribe and leave us a rating to help others find this leadership resource for nonprofits.